The Housemaid is about a young woman played by Sydney Sweeney, the role of Millie, who is going in for a job interview. She's a little down on her luck, living out of her car, and desperately needs this job, and goes to see Nina Winchester at the Winchester house. Rich family, has an interview. It's a great interview. Mrs. Winchester just seems like the greatest boss ever, and she gets the job, and then everything goes horribly wrong. I mean, everything I do, I try to make as fun as possible. This is a pretty dark movie, but the fun comes from how extreme it gets. I always describe it as a Nancy Meyers movie that's gone horribly wrong. And that was how we kind of faced everything from the production design to the whole way that we played it. And yeah, it's deliciously fun, I would say. Yeah, the script had gotten sent to me, and I thought it was really fun. And then I read the book and really fell in love with the book, and was able to then go in with our writer Rebecca and say, "Oh, I think these things from the book that aren't in the script right now, we need to put in because I think these are our water cooler moments, and these are the moments that people will really find very visceral." And we did that. Look, I've done a bunch of things now that are based on books or pre-existing material, and everything has a fan base, and there's something very terrifying about that because you have to walk the line between fan service and bringing people who don't know the book or the property itself in and making it work for, everybody, even the people that know it so well. I don't know if you always want like a just word for word, representation of what you liked. You want to be surprised at the same time, and yet you don't want to mess with the what works. So it was fun to be additive to this story. I've been a huge fan of Sydney's for a while. Ever since I saw that movie Reality, I was just like, she is really something. It was like, God, I'd love to work with Sydney. So when this project came to me from Lionsgate, who I was just finishing Another Simple Favor with, great script, and Sydney was attached. So I'm like, I'm in. But then we had to figure out, who was going to be Nina. And, I've always been such a fan of Amanda's and just the talent between that matchup between Amanda and Sydney. I just knew it was going to go through the roof, and it does. I mean, the performance they turn in. And then Brandon, his name came up, and I go, well, I want to meet this guy. And he came to lunch. The minute he was walking towards my table at the Tower Bar, I was like, oh, like, I'm in love. Like, he's this big, handsome, charismatic guy, and he sits down and he's funny and he's really into the idea of this role because, this role takes a lot of twists and turns, and some of them don't make you look so good. And he's like, yeah, I want to do all this stuff. So, I mean, within 5 minutes, he had the role in my head. And then, I just walked out like, we got to nail him down now. So that was great. And then McKaylee, I worked with on Another Simple Favor, and met him in Rome when we were casting, and he was just the perfect for the role of Dante. And I just absolutely fell in love with him. So yeah, when I read the role of Enzo, it's just like, I said to Frida, did you write this for Michele? Had you seen his other movies? And she goes, no, it just happened to be, but he's perfect for it. And, so he came in and it was very kind to do it. The role of Millie is great. First of all, when I read the book, you're like, all you can think of is Sydney really in the role. I couldn't envision anybody else in the role, honestly. And, but it's a tricky role because she's coming in, when you meet her, you have to think she's just a sort of like innocent girl who's down on her luck, who's very earnest and, and nervous. And, throughout the course of the story, you really find out this crazy past that she has. And what I needed is an actor that could bring that innocence through so much of the story, the whole first half of the movie. You just go like, oh, she's sweet and kind of, not the smartest person, but she's just earnest and all this. And then once the twist happens and it cracks her open, then you realize how complex this woman is. Amanda, now I can't envision anybody else being Nina, because that's the hardest role in the movie, really, because, again, all my movies, I always like to my favorite thing is like you meet people and you almost make them stereotypes when you first meet them. So you're like, okay, I know that, I know this dynamic. And then you start unraveling the sweater and you're like, oh, what the hell? What is up with this person? So, Amanda really had to walk this line of not letting it be, too far either way. And so we had so much fun of just like, you know, stare at her for a long time before you say this line, and just unnerve her with like, long pauses and just kind of weird smiles and then just a weird turn and so that makes a joke and then suddenly she doesn't. And it really was really masterful to watch Amanda do this. Working off of the Nancy Meyers movie Gone Terribly Wrong, it was like we knew, John, my DP, and I knew like we have to make the transition in this one location through light. So we're going to start everything to be very bright and pretty and colorful, and then just lights start getting dimmer as we go through. And then in the attic, what John did, which I was so in love with, is harsh sunlight. Because I'm not a fan of like thrillers or scary movies that all take place in the dark. To me, it's almost kind of a cheat. I go like, there's nothing scarier than like terrible things happening in bright sunlight and in well-lit rooms, because then it's just like, it's really, it's real life all of a sudden. And if you can scare people in a light situation, I think it's easier or it's harder than scaring them in the dark because you know what's around the corner. So it was just a lot of that. If you're a fan of this book, you are going to get everything you love from the book and a little bit more, and you're going to see the most amazing cast turning these characters that you loved on the page into real people, and you're going to have a deliciously fun, insane time.